Okay, folks, no sponsor today, so we shall be our own. You want a cool chick next to your name in the comments section? How about emojis bespoke to this channel, such as me, or my head on Chris Hemsworth's body, or Chris Hemsworth's head on my body? And many, many more. Actually, just those three at the moment, but more to come, no doubt. Click the join button below, become a channel member, and enjoy these perks and many more, most of which are less silly than the ones I just mentioned. But check them out for yourself and see if any tickle your fancy.
Dabchick's original colour came from this terracotta milliput. It's a two-part sculpting material. The latest version, though, was made with this type of thermoplastic, and I used coloured pellets to get that original terracotta colour. So with this rebuild, I'm keen on continuing the tradition of colouring the material and not spray painting it afterwards. Dabchick lives a fairly rough and tumble life, and the paint won't chip if he's not painted. So I'm starting with Phrozen's Aqua 4K resin. It's a good, reliable, cheap resin, and I'm mixing in some powder paint, of all things. I'm not going for a perfect color match at the moment. I'm just going to see if this works. Now, surprisingly, the result was quite good, but I will say as a caveat, mixing in powder paint isn't really ideal. I think it has a propensity to separate from the resin, and then you get a layer perhaps at the bottom or at the top, depending on the density of the powder paint, and the thing won't print efficiently. That being said, I did want to push this to the extremes just to see at what point it would start to fail, so I ended up adding a whole bunch more powder paint. So these prints all failed fairly consistently. I ended up getting these little pancake-looking things, so I opted for a different approach. These are alcohol-based inks. They work well with some types of resins, but 3D printer resins? Let's find out. The first attempt became unstuck from its supports, so I ended up thickening the supports for the next attempt.
Look at these beefy boys.
Whilst this print was successful, it did come out a little bit strange.
Very rarely does the grey stuff come out quite this soft.
So this print was the most similar to Dabchick's colour of the successful ones we've had so far, but it's not quite there, so I added loads and loads more alcohol inks, and unfortunately the result was more pancakes. With both of these experiments, with the powder and with the ink, I think the issue is the same. It's diluting the resin to the point that it's no longer curing properly. So is there a pre-existing resin that has the right colour, or a couple that could be mixed together to get that colour? Phrozen has an ultra durable type of resin called Onyx Impact Pro or Plus. I can't remember. Now, durability is obviously something you want because Dabchick is, as I mentioned before, he lives a pretty rough life. But the issue here is the color. It's really syrupy black. But could it be mixed with something like one of the neon oranges that they have to get something like a hybrid? To get the color from one and the you know what I'm saying?
So if we get this right in terms of the proportions and the exposure settings on the resin printer, we may end up with a resin that is not only the right color, but has some of that strength imparted from the Onyx resin too. Having the mix be about 20% Onyx seemed like a good proportion.
I think if we get to 20, we have throwing him full pelt at the door strength, and that would be good.
I disagree. That's it right there. Oh, too much shit! Actually, that's not too bad.
I had the thought that the color might change slightly when it was exposed. So what I did was I got a little dab of it and put it inside the curing station just to see if that happened. And I was met with a really, really fun surprise. Look at that. That is such a happy accident. I didn't expect it to glow so bright. I expected there might be a bit of glow, but that bright orange, that's lovely. After the first print, I clearly hadn't got the exposure settings quite right, as it was a little bit fully apart-y. But the head was printed fairly well. I glued it together again. But this does give us a sense of the color match. And here is the original next to the printed version that we just did. Now, it's not exactly the same. You can see slight differences. But obviously, the original one has aged a little bit. So here it is compared to the original terracotta milliput. I would call this a success. If you like my work, here is a link to my Patreon, and stay tuned for more episodes of Rebuilding Dabchick. Thank you.